This is Barry Pearl. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson welcoming you to this week's edition of TV Confidential radio talk show about television. And we'll welcome back our friend James Rosen in our second hour. Jim Rosen, actor, author of several books on classic television series from the 60s and 70s, and also the author of several books on the contributions of the city of Philadelphia to the entertainment fabric. Jim also wrote and produced a documentary that not only takes a deep dive into the history of one of the NBA's most storied franchises, the Philadelphia Warriors, now the Golden State Warriors, but also traces the rise of professional basketball in the city of brotherly love, including a look at the life and legacy of Eddie Gottlieb, the original owner and coach of the Philadelphia Warriors franchise and the founder of the NBA. Jim Rosen will join us in our second hour. We hope you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we'll begin our second hour by playing part two of a conversation that began last week with Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood. Tony and Bob worked very closely with actor Barry Morse on several projects during the last 13 years of Barry's life, including a benefit production of A.R. Gurney's stage play Love Letters in 1995, featuring Barry Morse and June Lockhart, a production of Love Letters in Los Angeles in 1999 featuring Barry Morse and Barbara Bain, and the publication of several books on Barry's life and career, including his memoir, Remember with Advantages. Tony and Bob's latest book, Two for the Road, chronicles the lifelong love story of Barry Morse and his wife of 60 years, Sidney Sturgis, and though they were frequently separated one way or another during their 60-year life together, usually because one or the other was on the road, performing a play or filming a movie or television series, Barry and Sidney always stayed in touch with each other through handwritten letters, cards, notes, and later audio recordings to each other. Their correspondence captured not only their abiding love for each other, but also the triumphs and struggles of two working actors navigating the 20th century stage and screen. The name of the book, by Tony and Bob, Two for the Road, available for purchase Amazon.com in the U.S., Amazon.ca in Canada, Amazon.co.uk in the United Kingdom, and many other online retailers. You both produced the production of Love Letters with Barry in 95. How did that lead to your friendship with Barry and your other projects working together? Tony first, then Bob.
The 95 production led to us wanting to have Barry back in Portland, because in 95 he had told us about his one-man show, Merely Players. So we thought about that, and we were able to bring him back to Oregon, where he performed Merely Players both in Portland and Eugene, which was a lot of fun. And it was during that trip that, over quite a nice dinner with Barry one evening,
and Oregon Pinot Noir.
Yes. we approached Barry with the idea of writing a book about his life. It always seemed that he wasn't really interested in writing a memoir, and so we wanted the idea, of us interviewing him and writing a book about his life. And he took that back to Sidney. He said, I want to take this back and talk to Sidney about it, and then I'll let you know.
Bob?
And he did let us know. He checked with Sidney, he checked with his kids, and they gave him the thumbs up. So what began as sort of, going to be an interview book about his life turned into an autobiography, because he started sending us audio cassettes. And I don't have the number in front of me here, but it's a tremendous amount of audio recordings, hundreds of hours that he recorded, going through his diaries and journals and recollections, telling us everything from the beginning right up. And so from that, we began editing. That whole process took a very long time. In my mind, I think, it feels like 10 years. It wasn't 10 years, but it took a very long time. And it was sort of a project that in a way we never wanted to have end, because, and I don't think Barry really wanted it to end either, because when you're writing your autobiography and you're getting to the last chapter of your autobiography, and it's covering your whole life, and you're, well into your 80s. There's a sense of, if you reach the end, you've reached the end.
Yeah.
And we never really had that precise conversation with him, but I think there was a sense of he was never quite happy with the last chapter. And I think that's because he wanted there to be more,
Yeah.
It wasn't over. And so that was a process, but it took a long time. We created initially a full version, which we called Pulling Faces Making Noises, and we released that independently ourselves. And then, but it was far too large for a traditional publisher to release and make money on. So then we did an edit, and that was what became Remember with Advantages, which is still available now. And, it's just a lovely journey through his entire professional and personal life, covering all the high points of his career, some of the low points, uh, interesting people that he enjoyed working with, and a couple people he did not enjoy working with.
One of whom we talked a little bit about Into for the Road. Yes.
He had a difficult time with Eileen Brennan,
Yes.
and that is in Two for the Road.
Yes.
He had a very difficult time during the filming of the Adventurer TV series with Gene Barry.
Gene Barry, yeah.
Yeah. He also had a difficult time when he was making a film called Kings of the Sun with Yul Brynner, and he did not like Yul Brynner at all. So Remember with Advantages is his theatrical memoir,
Yeah.
and we're very proud of it.
Yes, and as we said, Remember with Advantages. It's available. There's links to where you can purchase it at barrymorse.com. There's also links to how you can purchase Two for the Road, Tony and Bob's latest book, and some other written collaborations with Barry Morse. One of which is a subject. Bernard and Bosie, I think is the name of it. It's about he was very close with George Bernard Shaw, wasn't he?
He was. We did another book on that as well, which is called Valiant for Truth. Barry Morse and his lifelong association with Bernard Shaw, which really is virtually lifelong because it began when Barry was in the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And George Bernard Shaw was one of the, I don't know what the term is. He was one of the patrons or of RADA, who would come in and occasionally speak to the young students. And so Barry knew him when he was young in the Royal Academy. And then by the end of his life, Barry had been, well, and in the middle, he was the head of the Shaw Festival in Niagara on the Lake. He starred in multiple productions. I think over the years, he performed in probably every piece that Bernard Shaw wrote. And by the end, he was also the president of the Shaw Society in London. And so it was a lifelong association. And this book, Valiant for Truth, I'm very, very proud of that book. Even if you're not a fan of Bernard Shaw, which I'm not, to be honest. It's an incredibly fascinating book, and it's really, really enjoyable, I find.
Well, if you're not necessarily a fan of George Bernard Shaw, you will enjoy it because if you're a fan of Barry Morse, and that is one of the gifts he had throughout his life. He had such an infectious personality, and for all his accomplishments, he took his work as an actor seriously. He never took himself seriously, and at least, I mean, I got to I only met him once in person, but I was lucky to have several long conversations with him over the phone in the course of writing The Fugitive Recaptured, and it was never lost on me how much time he gave to me, which he didn't have to do.
He did that with so many people over the
Yeah.
years. He loved people, and he was very, very compassionate about people. I remember Tony and I were with Barry one time, and we were walking. I don't remember what city we were in, but we were walking with him on the street, and and Barry fell back a little bit. I didn't fall. He held back a little bit, and we turned. What's going on? he was watching, he had seen a homeless person, and he stopped and he was looking at this homeless person, and he was literally moved to tears, which was, who does that? Nobody
Yeah.
does. But Barry was so compassionate and so caring. There's another story that we were told by somebody else who knew Barry, who said that he was with Barry somewhere in the UK, and they were walking down the street, and another, this is another homeless story for some reason, but a homeless person, a bum, on the sitting on the street corner, uh, recognized Barry, and Barry, and said so, and Barry stopped and shook his hand and everything and said, "It's so nice of you to remember me," which I think is a really touching line. It's a really touching thing. He was very, very caring. He was very caring to us. All these years, that all those 13 years, as you say, where we were working with him on all these different projects, we became incredibly close friends.
Yeah.
Like family, close friends. And he was so caring. He didn't want us to devote too much of our time because he was worried that we were neglecting our eating jobs. Um, he would send us checks occasionally to cover some of our expenses and stuff. He just was so caring about all of that. There was one time that he had a Canadian account, and he had his daughter send a check to me from the Canadian account, and she said to me, she said, "Don't bother trying to say no, just take it." You can't say no to Barry. Um, and that dear close friendship continued until the end of his life. And um, I wish we had been able to be closer because we were on a different continent.
Yeah.
He was living in London, so we weren't able to be there all the time. But we did see him as much as we could. And another really touching thing was that after Barry passed away, he had wanted his remains to be donated to science, used in medical schools, for medical students to study on, which is a vital, important thing for medical students at some point in their training to actually work on, human uh, cadavers. And so Barry wanted that. That did happen. And then afterwards, his remains were cremated and returned to his son Hayward. And then Hayward at the time was still living in Barry's old flat in London. And he invited Tony and I to go over and scatter Barry's remains with him. So we went over, we spent a lovely evening with Hayward, Barry's son, in the flat in London, visiting and reminiscing and drinking Pinot Noir. And then it got to be about sunset time, and Hayward said, "Okay, let's go." So we went around the corner from Barry's old flat, which is on Pall Mall in London,
Mhm.
around the corner to a little square, one block park called St. James's Square Garden. And in one of the corners, I can't tell you which direction it is, but one of the corners, there's a big life-size bronze of a stag, a big horned deer. And that had been years before where Barry had scattered Sydney's ashes, was in the flower beds around the base of this big bronze deer. And so we went there with Hayward, and the three of us scattered Barry's ashes. So again, that Hayward recognizing the close relationship that Barry had with us, and inviting us to be there for that was probably the ultimate honor.
And if I may, Bob, you said, okay, you both wish you were closer to him,
Physically,
physically close to,
yeah,
yeah, physically close to him.
to be able to have been with him more, to have helped him more. But
Yeah.
we did as much as we could. But no, on a personal level, yeah, he was like he was a mentor, he was a collaborator, but he was like a grandfather.
And having written a few memoirs myself, that type of collaboration is very, very close. It's built on trust. And he would not have gone ahead with his autobiography and the other projects the three of you worked on together had he not had that, had you not built that trust in him, is what I'm trying to say. And that's a very special closeness.
Mhm. And we had no experience. When we approached him initially to work on that very first book, we had never done a book. We'd never done an autobiography.
Yeah, but
And
you produced a play together, so you proved
yes,
you proved your mettle in that sense. And he did not suffer fools. Obviously, he had sensed your intentions were good and that you would serve him well.
yes, we were on his side.
Definitely were on his side.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson, thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hi, this is Rich Little, and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Two for the Road, the lifelong love story of Barry Morse and his wife of 60 years, Sidney Sturgis, available wherever books are sold. Amazon.com in the U.S., Amazon.ca in Canada, Amazon.co.uk in the United Kingdom, as well as many other online retailers, not to mention BarryMorse.com. The Return of Victor Bergman, produced by Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood, available on Blu-ray through Anderson Entertainment as part of their Space 1999 Super Space Theater Collector's Edition Blu-ray, which you can find at jerryanderson.com. I have to ask. Now, you mentioned Hayward. You've worked
Yes.
with Hayward on a couple of things, if I remember correctly. Hayward followed his father's path. Is a very successful actor in his own right. I'm trying to remember. Through the two of you, I was lucky enough to talk to Hayward on one occasion. And it's interesting, you have an image of an actor and you figure, okay, they're going to do certain things. When I found out that he once played Brad in Rocky Horror, I thought that was very cool to learn about Hayward. And Hayward talked to me a little bit about that the one time I talked. That's not a question, that's more of an observation.
Well, Hayward has a pretty amazing background. I mean, he played in on the West End in a number of productions, including the premiere of a Joe Orton play. So he's done quite a bit, in his own right in his career, and has been quite successful. And he's made quite a career of voicing audiobooks over the years as well.
And I would imagine he was happy, both he and Melanie are happy with what you did with Two for the Road.
Well, Melanie passed away as well. She passed away. I can't remember the year. Tony?
Well, it's been several years now.
I was not aware of that, but okay.
But she did travel to Portland on one occasion. I'm going to say it was 1999. She came down from Canada to Portland. Barry was filming Merely Players in the studio. And we had an opportunity to spend about a week with her while she was there in Portland. And it was really nice to get to know her as well.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
Two for the Road, The Life and Loves of Actors Barry Morse and Sidney Sturgis by Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood, available Amazon.com in the U.S., Amazon.ca in Canada, Amazon.co.uk in the United Kingdom, and other online retailers. Tony and Bob will stay with us for one more segment. We hope you'll stay with us as we continue our conversation about Barry Morse here on TV Confidential.
Hi, this is Barbara Bain, You are listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson, along with our guests Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood. Tony and Bob are with us via Zoom. Tony and Bob worked closely with actor Barry Morse on several projects during the last 13 years of Barry's life, including the publication of his memoir, Remember, with Advantages, as well as several other books and numerous stage productions. Tony and Bob's latest book, Two for the Road, chronicles the lifelong love story of Barry Morse and his wife of 60 years, actress Sidney Sturgis, as told through the many cards, letters, and audio recordings that Barry and Sidney send to each other in the course of this 60-year marriage. Two for the Road also includes the publication of the play that Tony and Bob wrote about Barry Morse and Sidney Sturgis, also called Two for the Road, and which was first presented at the staged reading in 2017. Two for the Road, The Lives and Love of Actors Barry Morse and Sidney Sturgis, available for purchase at Amazon in the U.S., Canada, and in the U.K., as well as many other online retailers. Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood also produced the short film The Return of Victor Bergman, which was recently released on Blu-ray by Anderson Entertainment as part of the Space 1999 Super Space Theater Collector's Edition Blu-ray. Barry Morse filmed that piece just before his death in 2008. Space 1999 Super Space Theater Collector's Edition Blu-ray available now. JerryAnderson.com. For more on Barry Morse, BarryMorse.com. In the course of your 13 years working with Barry and getting to know Barry on a personal level, was there any one thing that you each learned from him? Tony first and Bob.
Wow. I think the example of his life in general and the way he treated people, his kindnesses, his friendships, I think that's what I really take away from knowing Barry. He was an incredible man.
Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. That's a really hard question, Ed. But yeah, I agree with everything Tony said. I think I'm going to circle back again to Two for the Road, the play and the book, and Barry's. At one point, and this may not even be in the Two for the Road. It might be in Remember with Advantages. But Barry talks about marriage, and he says, essentially that you or your partner may play a wrong note occasionally, comparing it to a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You don't throw the instrument away. You keep practicing. And you get better. So maybe I would add, in a relationship sense, again, that this is a wonderful example. Barry and Sidney both occasionally played wrong notes and stayed together and dedicated to each other for 60 years. So that's what better example can you hope for than that?
Is there anything else about Two for the Road the play, Two for the Road the book, that I have not asked you that you want our listeners to know about?
I would add that it has a whole bunch of wonderful photographs in it, which are reproduced mostly in color. Some are in black and white, of course, because they were black and white.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of color photographs in it as well. Beautiful pictures of Barry and Sidney together, or Barry on his own, or Barry in productions. A number of the photos are from Barry's private collection, so no one will have ever seen them before. Barry and Sidney at home at Christmas, that kind of thing. And I'd also add that toward the end of the book, we've reproduced as images a number of their letters and cards to each other. And that shows you their handwriting, and it shows you the more tactile way that these things looked.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for people to know.
I believe I still have a few of Barry's handwritten notes in my fugitive file. As I get older, I learn to purge, but certain things I don't throw away. That's one of them. We had several conversations over the phone, which I recorded on my end. With his consent, of course, but he sent me at least one, maybe two audio recordings he made in answer to some of my questions. So I still have those. So, well, this has been delightful. Maybe we'll have another conversation later in the year. We can talk about Space 1999 and one of Bob's other books. Bob wrote a very comprehensive deep dive into the making of Space 1999. Maybe we'll have another conversation about that down the road. In the meantime, what are you working on these days?
I have a audio drama which I have co-created, co-written, co-produced, called Helios,
Okay.
which Christopher Penfold, who was the script writer and script editor for the first season of Space 1999, he wrote a number of the best episodes, was co-creator with me, and my writing partner Steve Warnack. The three of us created this together and devised it, wrote it. Chris Penfold sadly passed away, and so it's now just Steve and I working on this. But we released it as an audio drama, and maybe we'll talk about that sometime. The cast is amazing. It includes Nick Tate from Space 1989 and Anthony Montgomery, Connor Trenier, and Dominic Keating, all from Star Trek Enterprise. So we have a terrific cast, and it's headed by an incredible actress called Cindy Dolans. And she's got a great story too, because she was discovered by Kubrick. But we can talk about that another time.
We could talk about that another time, Tony.
I'm working on in the very early days of a project about a 1950s film called Love Me or Leave Me, starring Doris Day, which was loosely based on the story of Ruth Etting, the singer from the 20s and 30s. So that's in the early days. Bob and I are also in the early days of putting together a re-release of a wonderful recording that Barry did before his passing called Rogues and Vagabonds. And it's an hour-long presentation audio that has been out of print for a while, for at least a decade. And so we want to bring that back out and make it available to folks digitally.
I think we talked about that when you first released it in the mid 2000s. I was still doing Dave White's show. I think we had a conversation, but that name is not unfamiliar.
I think you're right. And I believe Dave White also aired the entire program.
I believe he did. And we that's right. And we did the on-air equivalent of an audio commentary wraparound afterwards. I remember that. So
yeah.
All right. Well, so that's in the works. You're hoping to re-release that?
Yeah, we're hoping that that'll be coming out later this year.
Okay. Well, let's keep in touch with each other. We'll have another. It sounds like we have plenty of ammunition for another conversation.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
And the 50th anniversary of Space 1999. It was last year and this year, and so it continues, and that's a lot of fun.
For more on Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood, for more on Two for the Road, for more on their various other collaborations with Barry Morse, barrymorse.com. Robert Wood, Anthony Wynn, thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes, thank you very much.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
800-908-7197. 800-908-7197. 800-908-7197. That's 800-908-7197.